episode of Public Opinion.
Hey Pam, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. You know what? I'm thinking about our first episode when we were talking about the inauguration and how excited we were. And I don't know, maybe we were just being naive, but we thought that the political climate was going to change. But it hasn't really changed that much.
It's stagnant right now, but you know what? Change is going to come. You have to believe that because it's always a slow turn. It's always, and I kind of feel like a little bit like you felt when Obama came into office, like you thought something was going to happen instantly. We've got to be realistic. Change is coming. It is a process because it didn't go to all hell when the other administration came in day one.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? They actually said that March 4th, there was some rumors that March 4th was going to be like a reincarnation of the man formerly known as the president, who shall remain nameless.
Twice impeached.
Okay, exactly.
They speak of him in a supernatural form. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And you want to think, this is a group of idiots, but some of these people are educated.
Oh, yeah. A lot of them are educated. It really is. And then, because of that, they actually canceled a session of the House of Representatives because of a security concern. And they've asked to increase the security. So it makes me wonder, I don't even understand how people still want to go to work at the Capitol. And it's basically a war zone and a crime scene. So I really have to hand it to those people. I really do.
Right. It is not enticing. You think about it. A year ago, I wouldn't go to work because I didn't think the building was clean enough because I could catch COVID. Now, I wasn't worried about catching a bullet.
Okay.
But that's the difference.
Or having somebody come in and want to possibly hang you or kill you. But you're absolutely right. And actually now here in Ohio, there is going to be a seat that's going to become vacant at the 11th Congressional District seat that is going to be soon vacated by Marcia Fudge as soon as she is confirmed as the next Secretary of HUD. So I'm excited about that. My fellow sorors. So I'm excited to see Black women doing what they are doing. So that's
right. Look, our female Greek organizations are taking over. Okay, right. Washington is pinky green and red and white.
Okay, it certainly is. But that brings us to what our public opinion episode is about this week. We have 3 of the candidates that are running or vying for the 11th congressional seat. And this is 3 out of 7 people. So we are very honored to have them. I really am honored that they have.
That's very impressive. I'm impressed.
I am impressed too. So let's get started and meet the candidates that have agreed to be on the show this week. First, we have Chantelle Brown. In 2017, Chantelle Brown was elected chairwoman of the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party, leading the largest Democratic county in the state. She is the first woman and first Black person to serve in this role. Next, we have Nina Turner. Nina Turner is a former Democratic member of the Ohio State Senate, representing District 25, from her appointment in 2008 to 2015. She previously served as Minority Whip. She was a Democratic candidate for Ohio Secretary of State in 2014. Nina served as the national co-chair of the Bernie Sanders 2020 campaign. And finally, we have Jeff Johnson. Jeff Johnson is an attorney and is presently the court administrator for the Cleveland Housing Court. He was elected and served 9 years as an Ohio State Senator and 14 years as a Cleveland City Councilman. Let's welcome our 3 candidates. Okay, and welcome. Thank you all so very much for agreeing to be participants on Public Opinion. We cannot wait to hear what your answers are to the questions that we have formulated. But first, I do want to give each one of you the opportunity to answer the public opinion question of the week, because this is public opinion, and it wouldn't be public opinion if I did not ask that question. But for the audience, I just want to let you all know how everything is going to flow. I'm going to give each candidate 2 minutes to answer the public opinion question of the week. And then Vanetta and I are going to ask each one of you a question and give each of you the opportunity to answer that question. And you'll have 1.5 minutes to answer that question. So does everybody understand how things are going to go?
Yes.
All right. And thank you all so much again. So let's look at the public opinion question of the week. Why do you think that you should be elected to fill the 11th District congressional seat, which will soon be vacated by Marcia Fudge upon her confirmation as the next Secretary of HUD? I am going to let Chantelle start and answer that question, and your 2 minutes will begin now.
Thank you for putting this forum together. I appreciate the opportunity. Listen, I have 9 consecutive years of legislative experience in the district, serving a diverse group of a population, right? 3 years with the city of Warrensville, 6 years with Cuyahoga County Council, where I represent 10 of the 59 communities that reach from the inner city of Cleveland to the outer ring suburb of Pepper Pike. This district includes some of the city's most impoverished or the county's most impoverished to some of the most affluent. So working with a diverse group of people is something that I'm well versed in. I am excited about this privilege to continue to expand my territory of service because I've done some great work in this capacity as county councilwoman. I'm also excited to say that I made history in 2017 when I became the first woman and the first Black person ever elected to lead the largest Cuyahoga County Democratic Party and quite possibly the most complicated Democratic county party in the state. Under my leadership, we have delivered record-breaking voter turnout, and we've been able to raise significant money to deliver results of winning for Democrats from the precinct level all the way up to the presidency. So I just think that I am best positioned, most prepared, and ready to fulfill the legacy of our honorable Congresswoman Marcia Fudge as she ascends to become the Secretary of HUD. I am prepared to fulfill the legacy that she has started, as well as those that have come before her. And let's be clear, I want to run to become a partner to the Biden-Harris administration and help Speaker Pelosi pass an agenda that will get the resources and the recovery into the hands of the people who have been hit hardest by this pandemic. And no one is more familiar with those issues than I am, because as an elected official, I have had the privilege of overseeing the allocation of over $200 million of federal relief fund and how it would be appropriated to hospitals, small businesses, food banks, rental assistance programs. And that experience, I think, will serve me well if I am so blessed to serve the wonderful people in the 11th Congressional District.
Well, thank you so very much. And that was a great answer. And now we will hear from Nina Turner. Go ahead, Nina.
Thank you so much. And it is a pleasure to join you both tonight. I am a daughter of this great city, and I certainly understand the proximity to pain. And the 11th Congressional District that stretches from the greater Cleveland to greater Akron, born and raised here, raised my family here. And I definitely understand what the suffering is that people are encountering right now. And even before the pandemic, people were suffering. And in my leadership, as I served in the Ohio Senate, I served on the Cleveland City Council, and I will continue that service in the Congress to make sure that we lift the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. It is vitally important that that proximity to pain is understood, as we have children in this district who are poor. We have people in this district that are poor, and their needs are great, especially because of the pandemic, not just because of it. People were suffering before this happened, but it has impacted our community deeply, and especially the African-American community. Things like Medicare for All is important. What some people call radical, I call right on time. Canceling student debt, important. What some people call radical, I call right on time. And Black women in particular, even though canceling student debt would certainly help all people, but especially the Black community and Black women in particular, because we hold the largest amount of student debt in the United States of America. So from fighting for Medicare for all, an increase in the minimum wage, canceling student debt. We need to reform the criminal justice system that somehow sees Black and brown people as more criminal than anybody else. This is about changing the material conditions of the people who live in this district, and by extension, the state, and dare I say, this nation. You know, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan put it best. What the people want is very simple. They want an America as good as is promised. And I am running to help create that type of America. I can work with anybody, whether they're progressive, conservative, or moderate, but working with does not mean acquiescing to. And the people need a champion, somebody that's going to stand up, fight for, and work with. And I am that champion.
All right. Okay, now, Jeff, I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer the question now, too, and your 2 minutes starts now.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate being here on Public Opinion. I have been in public service for over 30 years, 23 of those years as an elected official. I always believe public service is an honorable profession. It is something I have been committed to. I'm running for Congress because of the conditions, because of the issues impacting the residents of 11th Congressional District. This district ranges from poverty to prosperity. Economics is a major issue. I believe you have to be prepared to be able to go to Washington and be effective for the citizens of 11th District. I have served on three levels of local government: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judiciary. And I've served on 2 levels of government. I've been a local official with the city of Cleveland, as well as Ohio State Senator. So I've served on both of those. It is natural for me then to go to the 3rd level, which is the federal level. I believe public policy, when done correctly, changes lives. I believe that if you are fearless, like the 3 previous holders, well, one is still holding, Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, the late, great Stephanie Tubbs Jones, and of course, my mentor, the late, great Louis Stokes. They represented leadership that was fearless, leadership that was independent, leadership that took care of the issues. And I want to continue that legacy. I know about how far we have come, and I've also know how much we have been affected by it. I'm going to go to Washington and stand with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I believe their agenda is an agenda that's right for America, and I will be a strong ally for that. And I believe experience matters. I believe qualifications matter. I'm an attorney, and I also have 3 college degrees. I'm ready to serve on day one. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. You all stayed within your time. I'm very proud of you. And so now we're going to move to the portion of the program that I am really excited about, and that's asking the questions that Vanetta and I have put together so that we can find out about the people or the person behind the politician, because we just think that it's so important for people to get to have a better understanding of the people that are running for office so that you can make an educated decision when you go to the polls. So the first question I will be asking, and again, you will be given 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the question, and each one of you will be given the opportunity, and we'll go in different orders for different questions. But again, with this particular question, I am going to start with Chantelle Brown, and the question is, why do you want to take this position given the events of January 6th? And we all know what happened January 6th. It appears that the Capitol has become a war zone, and it really actually was and is a crime scene. So the question is, why do you, given the events of January 6th, want to take this position? And again, Chantelle, I will give you the opportunity to answer that first, and your 1 minute and 30 seconds will begin now.
Despite the issues and despite the insurrection and despite what happened on January 6th, which was a horrifying event, people need people in office right now who are willing to work to get things done on their behalf. I have a proven track record of working with people who might not always agree, but we still find a way to get the business done for the people. As the county council representative here in Cuyahoga County, I'm proud of the fact that I was able to get legislation passed to declare racism as a public health crisis during these divisive and most volatile times. And I was able to pass that legislation with bipartisan support unanimously. That is something that type of camaraderie and connectivity and consensus building is just what we need in Congress. And I have a proven track record of getting those type of things done. So that is why I'm running for Congress. Nothing about that event deters me. In fact, it motivates me even more, because we need more people who are willing to fight for what's right rather than fighting against what they think is wrong.
Nina, would you like to answer that question now? Thank you.
What happened on January 6th is just a reminder of the unfinished business that we have in this country. And that unfinished business is dealing with white supremacy at its core. And we know that white supremacy breeds all the other isms that we are challenged with in this country, whether it be racism, anti-Blackness, anti-Semitism, homophobic, xenophobia, you name it, all sexism, all of those negative things are breeded from the foundation of white supremacy. But we are in need of leadership that will go to that Congress and speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And we will not live in fear. And so one of the reasons that I want to serve at this moment is bigger than what happened on January the 6th. And I am proud of the members of that Congress who stood strong. I'm proud of law enforcement that was right there by their side. And so we must continue to come together and unite based on what we have in common. We must unite and find the deep-seated, fight the roots of this bigotry, call it out, and not just in a legal format too. Continue to bring people together on the community level as well. So we will not be deterred. I will not be deterred. And our sisters and brothers in that Congress right now are not deterred by those horrible acts. And unfortunately, even today, which is Thursday, they received a threat too in the House of Representatives and had to cancel session today. But we won't live in fear. We're going to continue to push as a nation and eradicate the racism that plagues us. It's going to take a lot of work. We need some truth and reconciliation, but I do believe that we can do it. And I want to be a part of helping us to do just that.
Now, Jeff, it's your turn.
Because of what happened on January 6th, that more and more drives me to want to be at the federal level fighting for a national solution to structural racism and white supremacy. One of the biggest reasons why what happened on January 6th was the whole idea that they didn't like the results of an election. Our democracy is at risk. We have right now voting rights suppression laws all across this state, all across this nation, in almost every state, here, even here in Ohio. So it's about fighting for voting rights. We have the contemporary versions of what happened after Reconstruction, after slavery, relative to count how many bubbles are in a bar of soap, finding ways to intimidate and stop Black folks and people of color from voting. I want to be in Washington because I want to fight back against these interests. The other is that our democracy has not always been there. In fact, has not been there for everyone. And it's time to make America responsible for what it says is supposed to be in the Constitution. So I want to go because of what happened on January 6th, so that we can stand up for the millions of people who are not reflected in this negative campaign of white supremacy, who just don't like the fact that America is getting moving toward more Black and more brown and more people of color. Thank you.
I have a three-part question, and I'm going to start with you, Nina. Here's the question. What made you want to get into politics? What has kept you in politics? Who were some of the people who inspired you to run for office?
Oh, thank you for that question, Ms. Perry. Oh my God. Some of my sheroes, some not as famous, but certainly I would have to say, my grandmother, who was, born in the South, I often tell the story that she only had a third grade education, but she knew how to count her money. And she kept that money in the Southern Ladies Bank and Trust with the handkerchief. And my grandmother, she had mother wit, not formally educated, but had mother wit. We use that saying in the Black community. And although we didn't have a lot, I'm the oldest of 7 children. And unfortunately, my mother died at the young age of 42 years old with her dreams deferred. And she never lived to see her oldest daughter graduate from college, being a first generation college graduate, or even being sworn into office as a councilwoman, as a state senator, as the Democratic nominee for Secretary of State, speak as somebody that worked as the chairwoman of party engagement for the Ohio Democratic Party, and then going on to serve on 2 presidential campaigns. She never lived to see any of that. But I believe that as sure as there's a God in heaven, she is up there saying, "You go, girl." People like Councilwoman Fannie Lou Lewis, who is one of our local heroes, who told it like it was at all times. I remember, one day her being in committee and telling a director, "What you're saying is clear as mud." I mean, she had that mother wit too. I think her and my grandmother went to the same school, and on from, people like Fannie Lou Hamer, people like Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, who was unbought and unbossed. And what has kept me is answering the needs of the people. I mean, my proximity to pain. I have been in the category of the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. And so I do understand that people are suffering right now. Again, they were suffering before the pandemic, but
and I'm so sorry to have to cut you off, because that you were on a roll. But I have to, but I mean, I was like, I wish I could just let her keep talking, because I like that. I was like,
I was with you.
Okay.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I have to cut you off.
Okay. So next is Jeff.
So ask me again, because you had like 3-part question.
It's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
What made you want to get into politics? What has kept you in politics? And who were some of the people that inspired you to run for office?
What I just talked about previously is what has kept me in office: fighting for the people, fighting for the issues of violence in the streets, fighting for to reduce poverty, fighting for the issues. I'm about focused on the issues, meaning being a council person for 14 years, for example, I was at the front, right out front, seeing it up close. I've walked into homes. I've seen poverty up close. I've seen the homeless up close, and I've fought for that. I've seen individual families after someone's been killed by police officers. That goes all the way back to the 80s. And so for me, Black lives has always mattered, even before the movement. That's just my position. And I got into politics because my mother and father were active union members. I learned from that. My father's name is actually on the street where my house is and the family house is at now. That's how much he was involved in the community. His name is on the street side. And so my family, my mother and father David, my mother Betty, those are the reasons, but inspired by the Stokes brothers, Lou and Carl, inspired by Mike White, whose position I took in 1984 that started my political career, as well as Fannie Lewis, who would take me to the side and tell me what I ain't doing right and how to do it right. But in a larger figure, Bobby Kennedy, who talked about honorable profession of public service, as well as Barbara Jordan. I've been inspired by so many people that I just can't name them because you ain't giving me enough time. So it's all about being able to live that legacy, reflect that legacy, and never give up on fighting for people.
I got into politics because my neighbors were important to me. I wanted to know how to get to them to a place of safety in the event of an emergency situation. And that's what led me to my very first city council meeting, where I presented that question in hopes of being able to assist them in the future. And that's what prompted me to continue to go to my city council meetings. And the person that represented my community said the same thing every meeting without fail, and that was all is well in Ward 5. And at the time, all was not well in Ward 5. And so instead of complaining, I am a believer in being the change you want to see. And so I decided to run for my first city council seat. And let me fast forward, the polls closed on election day and I was down by 6 votes. But as a believer, I trusted God's infinite wisdom. I said, okay, this must not be for me. And I was convinced I would never run for public office again. But little did I know there were 23 provisional ballots in that race and 3 of us on the ticket. And I ended up winning by 7 votes. And that 7 is significant to me because 7 represents perfection, completion, and God. And that has been my moral compass and guiding force as I continue in this work of public service. And I say public service very intentionally because I am abundantly clear that I got here by his grace, mercy, and favor, and I am here to do the people's work and serve the public. And that has been what has kept me. So the people that inspired me are my neighbors. You may not know them by name, but I know them and they know me, and we love each other. And it's that service to community and that caring about the community that has kept me anchored in this work and focused on serving my community and making sure that they have the resources that they need in order to be successful, good citizens and good stewards of this great, great, great place that we live here in Cuyahoga County, and hopefully in the 11th Congressional District if I'm so fortunate to be elected to represent the people. So thank you for that difficult 1.5 minutes question.
You all are doing an excellent job of putting a lot into a minute and 30 seconds. So you all are doing very well. Okay, keep up the good work. Now, the next question is, what are your greatest strengths, and how do you think that will help you as a congressperson? And we're going to start with Nina.
I think my greatest strength is my compassion and my empathy. I really can relate to people suffering, and I do feel their pain. And I believe that those of us who are blessed enough to either serve or have to serve presently or currently serve, that we are in an elected ministry. You can't serve that which you do not love. You have to have a fervent love for the people. And in order to love them, you got to understand what they're going through by experience, mainly by experience. And so it is that kind of compassion and passion and empathy that is needed, especially right now, with so many people hurting. About 41% of Black businesses have closed. We know that our Black businesses hire a lot of our people who are in great need. We got about 97 million people who don't have health care in the United States of America, a hegemon nation. There is no reason in the 21st century for us to be the only industrialized nation that does not provide health care as a moral right. I'm going to Congress to fight for that. There's no reason why we don't have a $15 an hour minimum wage as a floor. So many people are hurting, and all they need is an opportunity. They need their material conditions changed. And I want to continue to be on that path of justice and create pathways of opportunity. So compassion, passion, and love for the people.
So my strengths, I'm a hopeless optimist. I try to find the good in every situation, and I try to find that silver lining in every cloud. But I'm also a very hard worker and a realist. I strive to build consensus. I strive to find common ground so that we can work from there. I think those are the characteristics that are desperately needed right now in Congress, especially during these most divisive and volatile times. I am the type of person that I am also empathetic and care about people. Love is definitely the language that I choose to operate in when I'm speaking to my colleagues, to try to move them from a place of not understanding to understanding, right? These are the type of things that we need if we're going to move legislation to a place to help the people who need it the most. So again, I would say I'm a hard worker. No one is going to outwork me. No one is going to work as hard as I will for the people of the 11th Congressional District. And finally, I believe in leading by learning. I don't profess to be the smartest person in the room. And if I'm the smartest person in the room, then I'm probably in the wrong room. I'm a person that believes in listening to the people and taking on their ideas and championing them for those who haven't had a voice. So those are the characteristics and strengths that I think have served me well and has afforded me to have a rapid ascension in this political world. And hopefully the people of the 11th Congressional District feel the same way.
I think my greater strengths are, I'm a man of faith. If you know my career, and you know the ups, the downs, the ups, you know that it takes faith to overcome and believe in what that the future holds something better than what you see. So I'm a man of faith, and I think without a doubt that is my strength. Psalms 27:1 is what drives me, the fearlessness and knowing that God's in my corner no matter what's happening to me. I'm also compassionate, and you don't spend 30 years in public service and not have compassion or empathy. To be able to walk these streets and be able to interact with the people who are struggling. I've been in prison, and I've still walked among presidents. I've been to two extremes and everything in between. And so to be able to continue to have the commitment despite all of that is I think is one of my strengths. I also believe in speaking truth to power. And those who know my career knows that sometimes I can do that at a fault when I'm challenging the big institutions, like fighting for $15 an hour when very powerful forces don't want that to happen. And I always believed in grind to shine, just put the work in and keep it moving. And so I think those are my strengths.
All three of you answered that wonderfully. I really, really appreciate that. And it gives us a better understanding of who you are as a person. All right, Vanetta.
Okay, I'm going to start with you, Jeff, for this question. How
Okay.
would you describe your political ideology? Progressive, moderate, or centrist?
Well, first of all, I don't think that I'm defined by just those three. I think I'm a mixture. I always believe that I'm center left. I have progressive views without a doubt. I fought for closing the wage gap, which really should be, there's some issues that people call progressive that nowadays really are becoming more and more mainstream. People know that $7.25 an hour minimum wage nationally, for example, is ridiculous. And so if you want to call me progressive because I fight in the streets for that, then fine. So I say center left. I believe in redistributing funds, for example, of how we do public safety. I may not use the term defund the police because I think it's too provocative, but I do believe in redistribution of resources so that we bring in mental health, behavioral health, addiction services, that when people come to a crime, they don't always have to have a police officer there. You can have a team that responds. So I think that without a doubt, progressive, I'm a member of the local progressive chapter here in the Cleveland area, so center left. And I also believe that when it comes to health care, everyone has a right to it. I believe in the Obamacare with a public option. I believe in social change and fighting structural racism. So however you label me, those are my positions. I'll leave people to label me however they want, but I consider myself center left.
Thank you very much. So it's a funny question because for me, I'm the chairwoman of the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party. So it depends on who you ask. But since you're asking me, I don't ascribe to any of those labels. I ascribe to the label of public servant. When I am helping people, when people call me and they want to know where they can get resources for rental assistance, when is the next food bank being held, how can they apply for a small business grant, they don't care if I am a progressive, a Democrat, or a Republican. All they want to know is if I can and if I'm willing to help. So that's who I am. I am a public servant, a proud public servant, and a proud Democrat. So I really can't say because it really all depends on what the issues are we're talking about. I think most people want to label us, to put us in a category to determine how they want to treat us. But I don't subscribe to any of those. I just do the work of the people and let them call me what they will. So thank you.
Well, I'm a hell-raising humanitarian. Some people might call that progressive. So I'm a champion.
Write that new category down. Let me write that.
Hell-raising humanitarian. That's a champion of the people, channeling the spirit of a Ella Baker who said, "We who believe in freedom cannot rest." Again, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, what the people want is simple. They want an America as good as its promise. And building an America as good as its promise mandates that we recognize that people do deserve health care as a right, that people do deserve to have a living wage, that our children, our babies deserve to be educated from pre-K to college or to voc ed. It demands that we look at the damage that we have done to Mother Earth and make atonement for that damage, not just in our nation, but in the world. It demands that we have criminal justice reform from the courthouse to prosecutors' offices to the streets. It demands that we look at racism through a different lens, that these are the things that are necessary in the 21st century. And because the United States of America is a hegemon nation, there is no reason why we can't do these things. Nobody questions how much it costs when we give tax breaks to the ultra wealthy. Nobody questions that we have a $1.3 trillion discretionary budget, yet spend over 50% of that discretionary budget on the military industrial complex. But yet when it comes to delivering service and resources to the people, folks want to ask how much it's going to cost. So I do firmly believe that we have got to stand up and speak a different kind of truth to power that says that not on our watch, and especially since Democrats control everything on the federal level, this gives us an opportunity, an awesome opportunity to serve the great people of this nation, and particularly those 140 million people who are either low income or living in poverty. I see promise in the problem. And since we have a two-party system, major party system, Democrats ought to be the ones to stand, and I'm excited to work with my party to help make that happen.
And the next question is, how would you describe, what issues do you think are most important for the people you hope to represent? And what would be the best approach to addressing these issues? I'm going to start with Chantelle.
So the issues that are most pressing right now are healthcare, jobs, and justice. If we don't have a healthy population, then the other two won't matter. So making sure that we have free, regular, and reliable COVID-19 testing is a high priority as I see it, and making sure that we have equitable and fair vaccination distribution is the next priority. We need to make sure that the people who have been hardest hit get immediate relief and recovery into their hands. People need checks now, and that's what we need to focus on. Next would be jobs. We have so many people who have been devastated by this pandemic, so we have to figure out a way to get them back on a pathway to prosperity, right? And I support the $15 minimum wage, and we have to get a pathway to get that done. And I'm equally disappointed that it wasn't included in this last legislation, but we definitely need to work on that. And finally, justice, social justice, racial justice, criminal justice reform, and environmental justice. These are all issues that work hand in hand. And if we don't address them now, then we will continue to see disparate effects, particularly in our community, the Black community. And so those would be my top three priorities if the people of the 11th Congressional District would be so fortunate to bless me with the opportunity to represent them. So.
Thank you. Well, universal basic income right now, I believe that the people of this nation should receive $2,000 a month until the end of this COVID crisis. Definitely healthcare, Medicare for all right now. Again, there is no reason that the United States of America, as wealthy as she is, should be the only industrialized nation that does not provide universal healthcare for all of its citizens right now. They need it. And because we commodify healthcare in the United States of America, healthcare is tied to a job. And so as more and more people lose their jobs or become underemployed, we see those impacts in the healthcare system. And Medicare for all would actually save this country more money than what we are spending right now. And then lastly, in dealing with our education system, especially because so many of our babies, and it was not expected that this COVID virus would hit, but are not equipped to be able to learn at home. We need to make sure that we invest more money so that all children, it shouldn't matter what their zip codes are, what their parents have or do not have, that we shore up the education system, both in the short term, but also in the long term, to make sure that our children are able to live out their greatest greatness and compete. Unfortunately, some of our children are losing ground because of what is happening because of COVID, and we have to help them to make that up because their future is being impacted today. So jobs, healthcare, and doing something right now immediately to help our babies who are trying to learn at home.
Picking three, just like all your other complicated questions, is difficult. Other than COVID, which is the most important thing right now, given how it impacts particularly communities of color and how it extends the health inequities that are in our community. Beyond COVID, economy and jobs, healthcare, criminal justice reform, but just even with that, how can you not bring education when it comes to this district? And I do believe that the environment and climate change is something that's very significant, though that day-to-day people may not necessarily point to it. Overall, the environment and how we deal with that is so critical. But jobs, economy, being able to close the wealth gap, being able to provide a standard of living that is not where you work 40 hours a week and you still have to be on food stamps, unacceptable. You have to close the wage gap. The health inequities because of structural racism, that is an issue that we have to address in our folks. And of course, we talk about social reform and education. So all I can say is that there's a lot to work on as a congressperson of the 11th Congressional District. To be able to have the history, the experience, the knowledge, and the commitment to get it done, I think is important.
What measures do you think are necessary to strengthen democracy in this democratic process?
Bringing people back to voting is one way, but voting is just one part of the process. It's not the entire process. And I do understand for the Black community in particular why we hold voting in such high regard, because our ancestors caught so much hell trying to get us access to that ballot box. Is one part. We need people to advocate. We need people to agitate, because democracy is represented. In this representative democracy, people cannot sit on the sidelines. They have to get involved, and that involvement extends beyond just the ballot box. And unfortunately, people are opting out. I mean, we had low turnout in the city of Cleveland, for example, which I know is only one portion of the 11th congressional district, but that low voter turnout in Cleveland says something. That people are opting out of voting means that we are in crisis, because that is the one place, no matter who we are, no matter our wealth or not, where the ballot box is the great equalizer. And so it is important to get people motivated. And one of the ways to get them motivated is for them to know that when they vote for people, that their material conditions are actually going to change. And so I want to continue. I've been a voting rights advocate for a very long time. In 2014, I ran for Secretary of State, the Democratic nominee, taking it to one of the most rotten secretaries of state in the country, because I do understand that the ballot box is important, because you get to vote for the future that you want. And so it's not as robust if people opt out. So voting and being advocates, showing people that their voice does matter and that they have a right to be engaged. And I want more people to know that their purpose is intact, that their community does matter, and that they can continue to work very hard to strengthen that community if we work in concert with one another and be bridge builders.
I've always believed that the most important thing is not the elections themselves, but what happens in between the elections. If you want people to vote, if you want people to be connected and not disconnected, you want people to have hope and be inspired to go to the polls, you have to be able to connect the dots for them. There is a reason why we have low turnout, particularly in urban areas. It is because people don't feel connected. And that goes again to the issues, that goes to the structural racism that have created social determinants that lead to inequities in the economy, inequities in housing, inequities in criminal justice, inequities in healthcare. You've got to be able to understand the connection between low voter turnout and what is happening in the greater social areas. Now, you still have to fight for to back off the white supremacists, those who seek to stop access. But you understand that even though you may stop certain policies, the people still may not, will in many ways not vote. So you have to do many things at the same time. But at the same time, you do have to fight against elements that are seeking to take away the right to vote, while helping people to make the decision to vote by improving their lives.
Not to sound like a broken record, but what happens after we vote? So people need to see a difference in the quality of their lives. I'm proud to say, having led the charge to declare racism as a public health crisis, being the voice that championed the reallocation of $30 million of a contract that was going to be solely awarded to to 6 general contractors. I stopped the contract from moving forward so that 50% of that would be allocated solely to minority businesses, right? So making sure people can see an improvement in their economic situations, looking at our communities, are our roads improving, or are they getting worse? Are our schools getting better, or are they getting worse? So measurements like that will let us know the results of the people who we have put in office and what they're doing to improve the quality of our lives. So yes, voting and participating in those elections, but we should be able to see some impact from the people that we put in office on our very lives. And those will be the measurements that I would encourage people to use. And that inevitably will either motivate people to vote to keep those folks in office, or motivate them to get them out of office. And we saw that in 2020 with the presidential election. All right.
Like I said, you all are doing an excellent job of fitting in all of what you have to say in this minute and 30 seconds. We're down to the last two questions. And so the next question is, what is the best way to approach the police reform given the recently passed George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? And I will start with Jeff.
Best way to approach criminal justice reform is to recognize that there are many aspects of the criminal justice system, and all of them need to be reformed. Now, the police, of course, is the one that is out front, and so let me deal with that. One thing about the George Floyd law, which is key, is that it deals with the issue of liability. We need to get that out of the way. We need to make police accountable for their actions. And of course, we need cameras, and we need to be able to make sure training is better. But ultimately, we got to have them accountable. And so the structure of the police services goes to a point, it goes back to the whole issue of structural racism as well. And the other criminal justice system is prison reform, getting people out of prisons who should not be there. Most prisoners are based on nonviolent offenses or low drug offenses. We simply have to stop over-policing when it comes to those type of crimes and under-policing when it comes to violent crime, because that is what is impacting our community. People want to call the police when they have issues like violence in their street. They just want police officers who arrive, who actually know what they're doing and are trained properly. And they should be partnered with people who are professionals in mental health and addiction. That's why I always believe in a more expansive definition of public safety. The prosecutorial process, bail reform, it is a menu of things that together comprehensively we have to approach, not just police reform.
Policing is just a microcosm of the larger society. And so as we do deal with the justice system in its totality, from those who are in law enforcement all the way to our courts, we do have to look at the men and women in the mirror here and understand that law enforcement is a reflection of a larger society and ideology, the way that we have all been socialized and how white supremacy is embedded in all of that. When it comes to policing, we need transparency and accountability, no doubt about it. And so I am proud to have been one of two co-chairs of Governor Kasich's task force that he created at my request for community and police relations, and for creating for the first time in Ohio's history standards for law enforcement agencies in our state. And we need to take that even a step further. We have to deal with policing in the United States of America, the entire criminal justice system, and racism and bigotry as a nation. But as we do that as a nation, there are opportunities and obligations that the local government can adhere to, regional government can adhere to, and the state government can adhere to. But until we get to the fundamental crux of why all of these things are happening, besides the funding, how are we training police? Are they held accountable? Do we have transparency? Do the people at the top understand that bad policing hurts police officers too? It hurts the entire community, but it certainly does not keep law enforcement safe. All of those issues have to be addressed at once, and all of those issues have to be addressed on all levels of government. We have to have a firm commitment. We have to have a reimagining of what criminal justice reform really looks like, and while we're doing that.
I want to talk a little bit about CAHOOTS, which is Crisis Assisting Helping Out on Our Streets Act. It's an act right now in Congress, but it's something that I'm working on here locally. And what it does is it provides a fourth option for our 911 platform, right? So instead of calling, when you call 911, instead of police, fire, or ambulance, you would get crisis intervention. So if there's a person who has a history of mental health, or if there's a homelessness issue, or something that's a non-violent or not a criminal offense that we often defer to the police to solve all the problems of society, then we could use this fourth option and let the law enforcement focus on issues of crime, right? So this is something that I would like to see. This is something that's actually in Congress right now, but something I'm working on here in Cuyahoga County, so that we can really have our law enforcement focus on criminal activity, and for these low-level offenses or nonviolent offenders, really get them on a pathway to become more productive citizens in society, or get them to rehabilitation centers or diversion centers instead of wasting our resources on issues that do not warrant such intervention. So that is my recommendation. That is my hope. That is something that I would like to see, and that is something that I would champion if I'm so fortunate to go to Congress.
I really liked all three of those answers, because that's just such an important thing that we're dealing with now, is with this police reform, given everything that has happened last year, over the years. So I really liked all of your answers to that. And now we've come to the last question of the evening. And Vanetta, you can ask that question.
Okay, Nina, now this is a two-part question again, and I want to remind you all, Pam wrote these questions, not I. Given the partisan division in Congress, how do you define unity? That's one. How would you define bipartisanship?
Well, unity takes action, but doesn't just mean that somebody has to do what you tell them to do to be unified. You know, I think the great leadership guru Stephen Covey expresses it better than I can when he said that seek first to understand and then to be understood. And that is a roadmap for having unity. And it is important to unify, but it is important though to get the understanding of the other person and try to come to some consensus for that unity. Bipartisanship is important if we can get it, but I don't think that we should sacrifice the needs of the people for bipartisanship. So for example, Democrats control the presidency. They control both chambers of the Congress. And in talking with members on the Republican side, which I've had to work with many Republicans on the state level of government, but when you have the power of the people in your hands and the needs are so great, if you cannot necessarily convince your colleagues on the other side of doing the right thing, then I think that you should move forward. And especially Democrats have to do that right now. You know, I liken it until people being in an ocean and they drowning and they saying, please come save us. They need saving right now. And that's why they need that $2,000 a month, universal basic income. They need Medicare for all. We need to make sure that we're educating our children. We need to take care of the systems in this country and ensure that we're changing material conditions. So unity is a two-way street. You got to listen to what other people have to say to try to build that unity. And bipartisanship is okay. But if you do have the power to make the change for people and you know that it is going to change their lives and their livelihood, then you should press on whether you have bipartisanship or not.
Different people, different things, different ideas, all working together towards one goal. We don't have to be uniform. We don't have to all agree, but unity is when things work together for the greater good. And that's when we all come together and for one common goal. I liken it to our body parts working in unity. The head doesn't do what the feet do or what the mouth does, but it all works together for us to live and breathe and to be human beings. And so that is what unity, that's how unity, what unity means to me. We don't have to be the same. We just have to figure out a way to work together for a common goal. And then finally, bipartisanship is when you can get both parties to work together. Now, let's be abundantly clear. There is a narrow majority for the Democrats right now, and I want to go to Congress to be a partner to the Biden-Harris administration to ensure that we can get the resources into the hands of the people who have been hit the hardest. So I feel like if we can't get bipartisanship to make those things happen, then we must press on and we must move forward, because people's lives are on the line, and bipartisanship is great, but saving lives is better.
True unity is when there is a common purpose, when there is a process of listening and talking, when one recognizes the other has legitimate positions, has legitimate rights to certain opinions, and if you disagree with that person, that you don't condemn them. I think it's important for our party, the Democratic Party, to have true unity, meaning that we'll agree to disagree at times, but we'll unify around common purposes, even if we get there differently. And so don't call me names, don't condemn me, don't give me false motivations because I am not getting where you think I should be, because I have my own history of experiences that got me where I'm at. I have my own history of understanding and learning. Bipartisanship only works if there's good faith. Right now in Congress, it doesn't work because primarily the Republican Party is not they're not working on good faith. They lied when they said, let's work out a bill. And then when the Democrats makes the changes, they then decide the Republicans choose not to vote, even though they got the concessions they have. So bipartisanship, I understand that when I was a state senator, the Republicans ran the state Senate. I had to work and find common ground to get certain things done. Like in 1997, when I led the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus to keep Central State open. You see, so absolutely it can be done, but you've got to be able to deal with people of good faith. And then, and if they're not, then you forge ahead.
Sorry, but that's the end of your time. But I think that we got the big gist of what you said, and that was a very good answer as well. I have really enjoyed all three of you. I'm going to tell you, I'm very, very impressed with the three of you as candidates, and I
extremely,
and I believe that between the three of you, whoever is elected or whoever in the other four, I have yet to hear from them, but I think that the 11th congressional district will be in good hands. And so this is the end of the program. I am going to give each one of you 1 minute to give a closing statement. But once again, Vanetta, did you enjoy them?
I thoroughly did. And I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't looking forward to this show. I have loved it. You guys have blown me away. This was extremely impressive. I think we should take this show on the road. You did a great job.
Yeah, you really did. So I will give each one of you 1 minute to give a closing statement, and we will start with Nina. Thank you.
I've enjoyed being with you all this evening too, and I'm so glad that you're doing this show to give people an opportunity to get to know people like us a little better. You know, I'm running to continue my service in this district. I care deeply about the people of my community, and I care that they are suffering. I care that there is an opportunity, there is promise in the problem to overcome all that ails us. And so in the true tradition of what the people want is an America as good as its promise, I believe that I can go to that Congress and help to create that type of America. And it won't be only just what I do in the Congress, in the committee, and on the floor of the House of Representatives. It is also what I will be able to do right here in the district on the regular basis, building bridges between communities, having conversations with people, and making sure that I clearly understand what their needs are. This seat belongs to the people. So if I am the next Congresswoman of the 11th Congressional District, I understand what I've always understood is that the people give us the power for a very short period of time. And it is our job to wield that power in love and in justice on their behalf so that we can make their lives better. And that is why I am running, to make the lives of the citizens of the 11th Congressional District better.
This is an amazing show. It was an honor to be in your company and to have this privilege to be able to talk a little bit about our policies and positions, and to give the people an opportunity to get to know us from a different lens is greatly appreciated. I am honored to be an elected official and to have had the challenge of making decisions during these difficult and unprecedented times is something that I want to continue to do if I'm representative for the 11th Congressional District. I understand the issues probably better than anyone, because I get the calls, I get the phone calls, I get the emails about people wondering how they can get the support of the services that they need during these most difficult times. Listen, the work that I've done as a 9 consecutive year legislator has prepared me, and I think that I am best positioned to be able to carry on the legacy of our Honorable Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, as well as those that have come before her. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again. I am running to be a partner to the Biden-Harris administration and to help Speaker Pelosi pass an agenda that will get relief and recovery into the people's hands who have been hit hardest by this pandemic. And I look forward to working hard for the people of the 11th Congressional District.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to talk about my passion of public service in the context of a federal office that provides so much opportunity to be able to help on a daily basis individuals who need it the most. And it's not just those who are in poverty in this district, it's those who do have jobs and have businesses, but also need to be supported. It is those throughout this district of all colors and all nationalities in Akron and Cleveland that require leadership that will take the time to understand their issues about their families and the need to deal with their needs as well. This is a legacy office. I remember when it was 21st District, Congressional District. I stood with Louis Stokes and Stephanie Tubbs Jones and Marsha Fuchs. I understand the high standards that it requires, the commitment, the fearlessness, the commitment to make a difference. And they are my inspiration. And I believe experience matters, qualifications matters. And I do believe that I want to be able to represent what they represent, and I believe I can. And I'm going to Washington to stand with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Speaker Pelosi, and all of the Democrats, and those on the Republican side who really care about making change. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And again, I thank the three of you so much. Vanetta and I have been very honored to have you with us this evening. And we just hope that we wish you all the most luck in your campaigns. And we just thank you so much again for just joining us this evening. Vanetta, I was so impressed with the three of them. What about you?
It was. I was blown away. As I said, they did a phenomenal job. I'm telling you, the dignity and character that they brought to this, we should have seen this on the political stage in Washington.
Okay. And that's what's missing. That's true. You can have different views or whatever your views are, but you can deliver them in a concise manner without putting other people down. There doesn't have to be any mudslinging. There doesn't have to be bad words exchanged between two people. It could just be people giving their opinion, telling people why they think you should vote for them. And it doesn't really even have anything to do with the other candidate. What it has to do with is your character and what you can bring to that position. And I think
there were three very different candidates too, but they all reflected themselves very positively. You would be pleased to have any one of those three represent you.
Absolutely. So I just thank you again for being my co-host. And if you like this segment, please like and subscribe to our channel. Tell other people about it. And join us next time for another episode of Public Opinion, because everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Goodbye.